Hi, Tapti.
So, how has your day or week been?
Ah, Pretty crazy to be honest. It's been one of the craziest week this entire year, I would say.
Okay.
So much happening, but I'm glad we've got a milestone happening today, right?
Yeah, we do. I mean, I think this is happening for quite some time, to be very, very honest. Something that we have been talking about, like brainstorming, throwing ideas about, and finally it's happening. And
It is happening. It's real. So, what do you think?
I mean, whenever you reach a milestone, it's always very exciting, right? Especially when it's something that you've talked about for so long and prepped for so long. It's very interesting, and the topic is also something that's very exciting right now because it's a very dynamic topic that changes day from day. Yeah, so it's very exciting.
While exciting it is, podcasts were kind of like a very mood topic for me because I'm a very visual learner. So when someone says podcast, it always comes through sort of like listening to it. There's no visuals, and I never got around it. But then, later on, I started watching all these video podcasts,
Okay.
and that kind of like triggered me. Oh, so we can look at something visual, right? And that sort of like ignited me into obviously having this milestone today, and I'm really glad it's happening. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I mean, I am a kinesthetic learner, and I am the kind of person who wants a podcast while working. So, yeah, I
Makes
don't know if
sense.
I'll listen to this particular podcast as we go on, but I really hope that we will be able to talk about some interesting topics that will definitely add value, especially to the educators that we are empowering right now, and also to the education landscape, which is like changing very, very swiftly.
I think that's why Boot Up exists, right? We've had what do I say? We've had a not with Boot Up particularly, but with educators and education, we've had a journey that kind of stretches up to 10 years easily now. We've been helping them out grow in terms of upskilling. We've been helping them out with any ecosystem support that they would need.
Okay.
Just end of the day to get that quality education out there. So I guess this is one of the efforts for that as well. So talking about ecosystem support, talking about upskilling for educators. I think we are here to talk about AI, right? Everyone's talking about it, so I guess we have to address it, and I guess that's why you're here. So, what do you think? First of all, I would like to actually understand. You work a lot with Boot Up. You've done a couple of education initiatives over the past couple of years. Um, as a person, you're also a teacher from background, actually, right?
Yes.
You're a physics teacher. So, this background and obviously the work that you do for Boot Up, how have you personally used AI? Has it been useful for you? Something to share about there.
Definitely, because like you said, I came from a very educator background to now it's educator empowerment.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of customization happening, a lot of understanding people from different backgrounds, and creating educational experiences which are very innovative. And like innovation itself is a very fluid term, right? So AI as a whole has definitely helped me look at different case studies, understand how different situations can pan out, and like check for different variables basically, and what can I manipulate, what are the different things that I have to work with. Like for example, when you take a child for preschool, for kindergarten, they get a couple of toys first, right? So like through AI, whenever we go into something that I don't know, like when we're diving into the unknown, which is basically what we're doing all the time right now. AI helps us sort of identify what we're working with, especially very unknown, unfamiliar environment. Yeah, how about you, Amr? Now, you work a lot with developing programs and a lot of development work. So, how do you use AI?
First of all, I have to say, when you say developing work and development work, you would probably literally see hearts in my eyes because I love doing that, right? I love creating learning experiences. So AI, to be honest, has been a blessing. Because now I am an avid learner. I love to learn, and even in my profile, which basically you can call it my CV, I have a quote that says I'm a lifelong learner, which means I actually love to learn new things, and I love spending time doing that. So but still, I find myself limited with certain knowledge, certain practices, certain techniques, even though I spend quite a lot of time and effort doing that. So AI is kind of like the window to lifelong learning. There's so much you can always figure out. There's so much of learning architect. Basically, AI has become like my learning architect buddy, if I can call it, and the possibilities of looking at various techniques, looking at various angles of looking at something. So, for example, one particular incident I would like to share is that I visited a school in Saudi Arabia recently, and we figured that they had high capacity classroom problems, which means one teacher managing 40 students at the same time, which is quite cumbersome, you know. So they asked me to come up with a solution. And
How was it designing?
it was quite interesting, to be honest, because what they had to do was, I understood when I was listening to it that the solution that they could come up with is to try and get students to engage with each other rather than always depending on the teacher to initiate a learning and all of that. So there's a lot of collaborative work I felt was important. But of course, ChatGPT I think that was the first time I used ChatGPT for designing a workshop, to be honest. Was quite useful. Of course, not 100% useful, but it was, I would say, more than 50% useful in terms of trying to get me into the right direction of thinking. Of course, I had to bring in what I knew, because end of the day, I understood the problem exactly right. But what I later realized was I was not efficiently using ChatGPT also. Because that was my first experience. And there's so many nuances into how we can use ChatGPT. But I guess, yeah, we can get into that in a while as well. So it's been quite useful for learning design, especially so far for me. Yep. So what do you think about teachers, and do you think they use AI? Do you think they are capable? Maybe before talking about AI, do you think they're capable of change, or how important change is for teachers? Anything that you can relate from your experience back in the day? Something that you could share.
When it comes to change and educators, especially, I personally I believe that educators are the people who should be at the forefront of this change, because most of the grassroots level that we speak about this change should happen in the classroom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And in terms of facilitating this change, a lot of different educators take different like methodologies, different ways of doing it. But there are definitely challenges when it comes to it,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
There are so many different challenges when it comes to interpreting change, and your definition of change can also change, right? Definitely. So when you ask me like how my personal experience in like implementing it, right? So when I talk about that, I think one big scenario that I had was definitely when I stopped being a school teacher and when I started facilitating adults. There was a big change there from one to the other. And during that part, I had to change myself. I had to change who I was as an educator, how I approach education. And
So more or less, this was, if I'm not wrong, this was during the pandemic and all of
Yes.
that, right?
yes.
So that was a huge change in terms of what happened to the education system at that point.
Yeah.
Was there something that you did? I already know it, but I just want to hear it out from you of what you did. Is there any experience you'd like to share from that point? Actually,
Is there an experience? Okay. The experience that I had, well, No, she's asking me what the experience is, knowing full well what that experience is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Want to get it out of you, to be
Yes.
honest.
So one fine day, I get this WhatsApp message with this particular post about this classroom training program. It was virtual classroom training program, and I was quite intrigued by it. To be very honest, for the very simple reason, it was I felt like addressing a lot of problems that I had, right? And when I say problems that I had now this is the time where we switch from virtual to physical to hybrid.
Yeah.
Now, how do you do it? How do you maintain it? Lot of problems. So that is why I wanted to join this particular program, and it touched quite a lot of the different kind of digital tools that we can utilize in multiple aspects actually, like how you can make lessons interactive, how we can build engagement in multiple modalities, and a little bit more theoretical also, like understanding different learner types, using these virtual tools for those options, right? And if it wasn't clear by now, the virtual training program attended was by Kava, designed by the person sitting right next to me. So,
Okay.
yeah. How was your experience designing it, Amber?
Again, like I said, like this week has been crazy. I remember how the pandemic was so crazy as well. I think I was one of the few people who didn't have time to catch up with Netflix, didn't have time to sort of like watch a movie
Yeah.
or chill or, so kind of like get caught up with a series. It was like one of the 1% probably in the world. We were busy. We were busy creating a solution to immediately upskill the teachers because we figured out that there was no proper guidance out there. And I tried looking for certain courses to see if I can refer them to teachers because we by then we already had like a database of teachers as part of our community. And then I figured we've been into live online tutoring from what 2012, and we do know how to handle the virtual classroom. And what started off as webinars turned into like a 10-week sort of like program, which surprisingly, it's been 2 years now. I still have teachers who come up to me on Facebook, on the WhatsApp community, and tell me how memorable it's been, how much they learned. I think we even did a survey recently of how much these guys retained knowledge from it,
Yes.
retained the skills, or was there any effort that they did afterwards to further upskill themselves. So it was all I saw positive engagement from more than 50% of our alumni, to be honest, which was surprising.
Yes.
So that kind of like got me driving into when we did it during the pandemic with virtual classroom training and engaging tools. Now is yet another revolution. I'm sure revolution is a huge word, but it is, right? When you look at the education sector right now, every industry we talk about, there is an AI component in it. So, what is it that we're doing in the education sector? What is it that we're doing for teachers? What is it that we're doing for students and schools? So, I guess that's when we actually sat and spoke about it, right? Something that we wanted to do as I'm going to leave it to tell to you to tell the topic, to be honest.
Yeah. So there came this point where now everything is very very fast paced. Now in like I think for virtual classroom training to be created, as you mentioned, the issue was to switch from physical to all of a sudden the digital environment. And now we have this other third component coming in called AI, which is being introduced to every little aspect of our lives, right? So now, in order to deal with AI, we need to know AI. And then for us to know AI, someone has to teach us to do AI. Right? It's a simple flow of it. And then, so how do we support these educators who are just able to come to the digital environment to take a step that is like, several much more leaps higher than the earlier one. And it is also not a technology that a lot of us understand. Now, when it came to digital transformation, most of us already knew how to use our phones, laptops, maybe not for teaching necessarily, but we were comfortable
Absolutely,
with it.
yeah.
Yes. But now it has come to the point where we are just getting in touch with AI. And sometimes all we know is the term AI. Like we don't know what it's about, we don't know how it works. And so in such a landscape, it has also become integral for us to sort of involve it into our lives, integrate it. Now, where does this come in? How can we make this integration smoother? So, just like how you mentioned now, the reason why you went for virtual classroom training or VCT was because of your experience of like about 10 years. I think that is when we wanted to start using AI in our practices as well, first to see. Learn it as us first, do it as us first.
Absolutely.
Fail quite a lot of times along the way and learn quite a lot of different things also. Something that I think we have been quite running into is how do you prompt a system? How do you get what you want? Now you touched on it when you were speaking earlier about like learning curve, right? So we had quite a lot of learning curves with AI, and with that learning curve, I think we want to just take the take a turn back and make the circle complete, come back to our educator community and see how we can help them integrate it also to them, right?
Yeah.
Because that is how you can make a wide impact and
Absolutely.
achieve what we want to do. Yeah.
So, I mean, interestingly, when you said that we had a learning curve, this just I wanted to share this experience with my, L&D architect Sam, who's sort of like helping us build this course. We're gonna reveal we are building a course AI for teachers. I think it's high time we said that. So the AI powered teaching, in short, it's called APT. We had our struggles with the design for the training, to be honest, because we were trying to figure out where to draw the line and what is it that is absolutely necessary right now, because too much would also kind of like glide over the head of educators. We just want to give them just the right amount of knowledge and skills. So we kind of like came up with a guideline where we looked at 4 different things, which was design, we looked at deliver, we looked at engagement, and then we looked at evaluation. So those were the 4 steps we thought where we can approach how a teacher uses AI to address these 4 steps.
Yes.
So interestingly, when we came up with the first design, I was not at all satisfied. I was thinking sometimes there is not at all AI in it. Sometimes I feel like we're just going back to pedagogy, and it didn't really hit the point. But then what we figured out was that you could ask AI to sort of like help us figure out how AI can be used. Ask the master himself. I don't know why I called him a himself, but yeah, him or herself, whatever. So that's when we kind of like deviated into the design, and we came up with very interesting things where there are tools for nearly everything now. It's crazy, and it's also overwhelming, the number of tools that's out there. Have you seen those Instagram posts with the little pinwheel like thing that says design this many tools, create an image this many tools, create notes or scripts or whatever this many tools? It's kind of like overwhelming.
It's
to be honest.
very overwhelming. Like every time I look at some of those posts, it's like the content is very different from the last post. So I'm like, okay, what is this?
Yeah, true. But I think we need to note one single tool, which is Canva, which has always been a favorite at Boot Up.
Definitely.
Their magic design is honestly, I haven't really honestly explored all of it, but I've explored to a certain extent so far. They've just released it last week, to be honest, which is kind of like very interesting because teachers are already comfortable using Canva. It's just a matter of plugging in some of the features and the magic right to. I just feel like Canva has brought all the solutions under one roof right now, rather than using an overwhelming number of tools, to be honest. So like I said, coming back, what you mentioned earlier, prompt, which is called prompt engineering, was a large part of figuring out that it's so important for teachers to learn as a skill. Because when you look at prompt engineering, it also looks at various aspects, right? For example, what is the role that we want the AI to play? Do they act as a teacher? Do they act as a learning designer? So the role is very important, as well as the target group. So act like a primary teacher, act as an art teacher, act as a professor who is an expert in probably core mathematics. So I think those were tiny, tiny nuances that sort of like transforms the way we use AI, which I felt was a huge revelation when we were doing the design for APT. Hmm. So, what do you think? Do you think you've kind of like had a peek into the APT design so far? I know you don't know the whole thing yet.
No.
But
Actually, a surprise to me, which is actually quite funny because when we first conceptualized, I was part of the meeting.
Yep.
And I was part of the whole design. But then now I have no idea what's happening. I mean, it's also a little bit exaggerated. Like Amru mentioned earlier, I know the main areas that we are looking at, and it's very interesting to be honest because I see this infusion coming in to our team as well. Like now when we talk about engage, evaluate, so it's DTE, right? So design, deliver, engage, and evaluate. So those four components are components that we deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, that we do.
It's something that we live with, we breathe with, and it's very interesting to see how it has infused itself into our day-to-day designs as well.
Yeah, we're kind of like closing the circle now. We started with that, and we're closing.
Yeah, we're coming back there, and like sometimes we don't even realize it, right? How we use it in the sort of delivering a session sometimes, and like Canva. You came to Canva. I used some of the magic aspects of Canva yesterday, and it was mind blowing.
What did you actually do?
So one thing that I have quite a bit of difficulty up to now is coming up with like a lot of presentations. So we deal with a lot of different product portfolios, presentations, wide variety of documents we have designed in a day. And here they have this AI tool where you can give a time prompt about what you will. For example, a proposal about this particular learning design tool. And automatically they give you this particular template for the presentation and like different options as well. So you can select it, edit it, change it. Now I've always been a big fan of the Canva templates. Now this is like a major twist to it. It's
so
like,
they suggest you a template.
Yes, they give you different variations of templates based on what you want customized for it.
That's lovely. That sounds like a relief.
That's like, okay, it's a lot of time that I spend sort of brainstorming, okay, how do I want this to be like?
Because I remember once, because you handle social media content as well, you handle all the administrative documents as well. So it was always a challenge for you to sort of like swap between. Sometimes the content is the same, it's just that the format is different, right?
Yes. So the audiences are definitely different, right? We speak to different people in different things. So this makes it very, very easy.
Canva to the rescue. Whippy. All right, cool. Of course, I mean, we're talking about all the positive things, but of course, we have heard of things that are not really great with AI as well, right? What is your perspective about that? And how much should teachers be, or educators should be aware of the side of AI as well?
I think like AI, to be honest, is kind of like what I personally see is like a knowledge tool, right? It's a lot in the way that you apply it, a lot in the way that you use it. And like any sort of knowledge about anything, it comes with the positives and the negatives. And especially since we're talking about the education landscape and how like AI affects education specifically, I believe that as educators, we have a responsibility to see how you can mitigate or how you can reduce the impact of the cons and how you can sort of like enhance the pros. And rather than like, let's say, I think more than mitigate, what I can say is how can we utilize AI in such a way that those issues are not faced? Otherwise, how can you change our thinking or our protocols to suit for it? That's actually my perspective as someone working in education and AI actively. What do you think, Amra?
I mean, yeah, you said it pretty much for educators, but what I'm also thinking is the students actually. The students are also capable of using AI. And we already know that People use AI for their assignments, for completing their homework. And as a result, there are some, obviously, to figure out the plagiarism part, there are already tools that figure out, kind of like expose if there was plagiarism done through AI as well,
Yes,
right?
yes.
It's already there. But my thought process is now, how, as teachers, how can we address that part, right? Do we change the way we assess children?
Okay.
Or do we like give them like Q&A, certain things that they could open the book, find the answers the same way now they open ChatGPT or any other AI based tool and get the answers from it. So as educators, what are the change in mindset or shift in the way we see these things, do you think, for this part?
Um, Yeah, so interesting point that you mentioned about how we test them. Right now, that's I think an important aspect we touch in the course as well with
Yeah,
evaluate.
evaluate.
Yeah, so how can you critically assess this? Now, for example, our traditional, I'm going to call it traditional, but like current methodologies of testing a learner. I mean, the main purpose behind it is to see if you understood something or not,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah, and we have got comfortable in a very into a particular system up to now.
Mhm.
But I feel like maybe we can look at it in different angles, see how we can use different types of tools, different ways of assessing it that is not dependent on AI, that they can't get the response from AI. Because the main thing with, like, let's say ChatGPT, even if I ask it to, let's say, do my science homework, if I don't tell it what exactly the science
Yeah.
homework is supposed to be about, it can't give me anything,
That's
right?
true.
I mean, it's like I have to know what I'm talking about before I get a proper response from this.
It's true.
So I think maybe if we change how we assess our students to a way where we start supporting them to ask a lot of questions, where like learning and questioning comes together. So then, even if they use ChatGPT to sort of enhance the way they question themselves and the way the responses are given, what we are doing here is to like sort of enhance their critical thinking abilities.
Absolutely. That's exactly what's running in my mind right now, because I was just thinking about how we did this whole micro course on critical thinking for students, how teachers could use that as an aspect to sort of like address this issue. And I feel like, I mean, at that point, we didn't really talk about it in related to AI, but I feel like they are very much connected, right?
Yes.
So I remember the tagline. It was about how do we teach students to think, but rather than how to think, it's about what to think, right? So they figure out things that rather than indirectly explore a more wider range of how they go about learning and all of that. So, talking about that, I mean, these micro courses were for educators in the Metamorphic community that we've built for the MENA region, right? For educators. And I believe it was a target group of teachers that we were thinking about when we were actually designing APT, also, right? Because when you look at, I mean, Boot Up based in Dubai, um, whichever way you turn, there's got an AI startup or an AI solution out there. So, I mean, naturally, it was Boot Up's turn to sort of like get into it as well, where we developed APT
Yes.
for the Metamorphic community educators. So, what do you have to tell them, actually, our community of educators?
Even the Metamorphic community educators.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think they have a lot of interesting things to look forward to in the coming few days.
I hope so.
And interesting in the way that, like, I mean, like we'll be talking about critical thinking for students, a lot of different things. We take the same approach with our educators as well. So this is like sort of like a landscape for them to play around with also. And here we are like introducing them, supporting them to integrate it, but it's their playing field. And we're putting it up to them. It's like, this theme park, you guys come in, and we're here to support you for navigate it.
Yeah, that reminds me of the saying one of our co-founders, Fawaz, who says that He says this at every workshop actually. He says that we're not giving you the knowledge, we're just giving you the thirst for knowledge. So that's exactly what we're trying to do with APT as well. It's not your go-to guideline and you figure out everything about AI for education. But it's definitely going to be a guideline as to get you to step into the way. And thereafter, you're going to be sort of like self-sustainable in terms of acquiring the skill set that you need for AI. So I'm kind of like excited for APT, to be honest, because just like with VCT, the community of teachers who came up with solutions at the end for the practicum, likewise, we have a similar concept here as well, where we're going to open it up to educators to come up with using AI for their classrooms and how they actually sort of like manage to do that practically. So I'm kind of like excited for that part of APT, to be honest, where we see how teachers can get creative because they're naturally already creative.
Very true. Yes, I mean that's always a very exciting like aspect of these workshops, right? Like when we design something, the practicum is a very interesting part.
Yeah.
And like when it comes to the AI, there's just so much you can do with it. So you can't really predict what anyone will come up with, right? And so I'm actually excited in two ways. I'm excited to see the program also because I've been seeing it for the very first time when it happens. First time for the concept, has no idea what's going on right now. So in that way, I think I'll learn quite a lot also, and I'm looking forward to that. To be very honest, to see how I can integrate more in what we do. And basically take that knowledge to support other educators out there. That's like how it comes down to the circle always. How about you, Amra? Like,
probably as a facilitator for APT, or probably one of the facilitators for APT at this point, we don't really know who's going to deal with the course. I feel I would also learn quite a lot because that happens with every learning session with facilitative training. We learn so much as we give. So I'm looking forward to that learning. So if you guys are educators and if you'd like to sort of like dive into AI powered teaching, we are going to drop in some details down there. Wherever you're seeing this, watching this, listening to this, just check out the description and you should be able to get in some information about it. Or otherwise, if you don't find anything, you can always buzz us on BootUp. We have Thapti who instantly responds. So we're looking forward to connecting with the educators actually, and we hope this little chit chat between Thapti and I has been quite interesting. But before we end up, I want to do one little activity here. So we have a couple of shaky cards here. So I'm going to play along with you as well.
Okay.
When I say the word APT, obviously at this point it means AI powered teaching.
Yeah.
Which is the picture that relates to you, and why you selected the picture, and your final thoughts about APT.
Okay, I think you want me to select one picture, yeah?
I think it's just the two of us. We can go for more than one if you want to.
I am gonna go with these two for now, yeah.
Okay, all right.
So
I'll let you select as well. Okay, I'm going for these two.
Yeah.
All right, maybe you first.
Okay. So the reason why I picked actually this card, which is multiple colors in it, kind of like a Venn diagram, lots of different things combining, and I think this is what like AI powered teaching is about, right? Combining what we know, what we don't know, what you know, and what's existing out there. So it's a very wide landscape, big playing field, and how we can create new things by integrating all of these. How about you?
Okay, so I've selected two cards. One's the lightning and then one's the metal Golfest. So lightning is because AI has been taking us through a storm, to be honest. We are through an AI storm right now, and we had to action upon it immediately, just like how we did it for VCT a couple of years ago. So we easy to say that BootUp has taken a quick and I can't really say fast, but a quick action into coming up with a curriculum for APT and roll it out as a course so that a lot of teachers can actually ride past the storm. Yeah. So yeah, that's it for me. So we're so glad we did this podcast update.
Definitely.
We hope we're going to meet you guys again at another podcast, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we have a lot of interventions happening right now, so let's see how we can plug in.
Cool. So that's us signing off from the first episode, which is called
Unleashing Education, right?
There you go. See, she knows better. So see you guys at the next episode, and it's a wrap from us, Amra
See
and
you.
Taufik.
Bye.